Dude,
What?
can you silence that?
I did.
No, it's still vibrating.
See the button that says do not disturb?
Uh-huh.
See how it's green?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so we understand each other.
Dude, it's still vibrating.
Send me a text.
Nah, I'm good.
Well, I mean, unless you want it vibrating later. I got no other way to test it.
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Dude, what's wrong with you tonight, man?
Nothing. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Is the original Jean Grey still alive? Is Scott Summers alive? We're going to do that again because it was terrible.
Yeah. I thought it was fine.
Well, you're fine with mediocrity.
It wasn't mediocre, dumbass. What is wrong with you, man?
Nothing.
Okay. You're in one of these sulky moods, apparently, and I'm not sure if I've done anything to cause it or not.
No, I'm just tired, and I'm tired of my aunt being in my face every day of my life.
That's why you need to move out.
Yeah, it is. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Is the original Jean Grey alive? Is the original Scott Summers alive? Is Elvis alive?
Spider-Man is no more.
Can someone please cancel this Captain Marvel book already?
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Months Behind podcast.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of 7/2/18. I am Pat.
And I, as always, am Sean.
And this week we are Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby, because these are the two guys that Stan Lee built all of Marvel with. And Steve Ditko passed away a few days ago.
It's been a couple weeks ago now, but yeah, we all found out about it. I guess it was this past Friday.
Yeah, Friday or Saturday, something like that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. I mean, he was in his 90s or something, wasn't he?
I don't even know, man. He was, he's up there with Lee. I mean, he's in his 80s, 90s.
Yeah, I mean, it was not unexpected, but it's Steve Ditko, man. I mean, the guy created Spider-Man. He did all that art with Doctor Strange, kind of co-created Doctor Strange. Is a legend in comics and at Marvel in particular. He's one of the original architects along with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Yeah, he was good, man. He was very good. And I was going to say he would be missed, but he has been living a very reclusive life for probably the last 30 years. And, he was already missed. There's a very good YouTube video entitled In Search of Steve Ditko. It's a BBC documentary. It's about an hour long. I'm going to put it up on the website. And it's really, it chronicles his work and everything he did and the problems he had with Lee and Marvel. And it's good, man. I'm going to put it up there.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't published anything in maybe my entire lifetime, but I mean, he's just one of those comic book legends, and they all seem to be drifting away these days.
Yeah, they are. They're not young, so
yeah, that's true too.
Yeah,
we're lucky though that we have modern young legends that are also doing good work in comic books, and Steve Ditko is one of the guys that paved the way for that, and it's his legacy. So
Yeah.
It's sad, but at the same time, we should celebrate the work that he did.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that you look at it now and you don't appreciate his art because it's so different from what's being done now. But if you've ever seen the Spider-Man cartoon from the 60s, that's Ditko's incarnation of Spider-Man, brought to cartoon film, cartoon rendering, I should say.
Mhm.
The everything that you've seen of Spider-Man up through the movies is basically how Ditko created him. And you're seeing the Iron Spider these days, and in the latest Spider-Man movies, you're getting that. But dude, it's everything Spider-Man is how Ditko drew him, how he created the costume, how he created the character, how he created Peter Parker. And Stan Lee did that intentionally because everything Jack Kirby drew, everybody Jack Kirby drew looked like Thor and Captain America. And he didn't want Peter Parker looking like that. And that's why he had Ditko do it.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a big loss for comic books this week. And, it was strange. We didn't actually, we found out on, July 6th or 7th that he had died, but he'd actually been dead since
June 29th.
Yeah, late June. It'd been about a week. So, just to give you an idea of the kind of reclusive lifestyle that he lived. Yeah, man, it sucks. But it is nice to see all these news organizations picking this up, because typically when something like this happens, it's just the comic book and nerd websites that do it. But I mean, New York Times wrote something about him, Washington Post, NPR. I saw it on the local news. I was like, oh wow. So yeah, it's nice to see. It's nice to see that he's being remembered in this way, and it's not just, oh, that guy died, that sucks, okay, on to the next thing. It's it's being felt.
Right. Yeah, which is good. I went to a semi-happier subject. I sent you an article today that I'm also going to post on the website about the X-Men and them finding their way back into the Marvel universe. I don't know if you had an opportunity to read that, but I forgot the guy's name. It talked about how there was always rumors, and basically everybody's coming out saying at this point, yes, we sidelined the X-Men and the Fantastic Four because we didn't own the rights.
Yeah.
And one of the things I had forgotten.
That's Perlmutter's doing.
Thank you. That's his name. Is if you say the series that's going on in X-Men Gold right now, where they're fighting that guy in the negative zone. Okay, that's a new character. All right, those are new characters, new world, new universe, etc. Technically, that character, as created, immediately reverts to Fox. Okay, Fox owns the rights to that character. So, it brought home the point that about a year ago, whether these negotiations worked out or not, Marvel just said, screw it. We need to sell books, and we need to sell X-Men books, and started writing good books and creating good characters again. And the X-Men have been good. They're going to bring back the Fantastic Four, which Marvel 2-in-1 has been very good. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Fantastic Four also, particularly with Jason Aaron writing it. It's
Jason Aaron's not writing it.
Who's writing it?
Dan Slott.
Dan Slott, that's right. I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought Jason Aaron.
Jason Aaron's doing the Avengers.
He is, yes. And that's very good.
I like Jason Aaron, but I feel like he's got enough on his plate that if he starts writing even more stuff, it's all going to suffer because he's writing too much. Bendis got that way towards the end of his Avengers run. Is he was writing everything, and I feel like the quality slipped a little bit. So I would like them to see them, not give Jason Aaron everything. And I think Dan Slott's the right guy for Fantastic Four.
Do you know Chris Claremont's still under contract with Marvel?
Who is?
Claremont.
Chris Claremont?
Yeah. They're paying him.
Doesn't
Not do anything with him. They're just paying him to sit there.
Yeah. Keep him on retainer. Hey, you want to do some more X-Men? Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah. That's essentially what they're doing. So.
Yep.
Anywho, if you haven't figured it out yet,
well,
we're going to discuss spoilers in this podcast. If there's something you don't want to know, go read the books, then come back to us after you've read the books.
Yeah. Yeah, just getting straight into it. X-Men Blue number 18.
What did you hate about this book?
I don't like this storyline. The young X-Men are jumping around through time trying to get back to their time, and they keep ending up in the wrong time. And in this one, they end up at some whacked out version of the X-Men Academy that's run by Emma Frost and Sean Cassidy. And in fact, it turns out that that's not the case at all. After they get in a big fight with these guys, they're all just illusions maintained by the evil version of the future X-Men. And then they get zapped back into the past again. So yeah, hooray. The whole issue was pointless.
You know, it was okay. There's some good one-liners there between the characters while they're sitting around. It's
sure,
all right.
But it did nothing to advance the plot forward. The tiny infinitesimal plot that exists in this book, it did nothing to move it forward.
You've got a great homage to Uncanny X-Men 100 cover.
Oh, okay, great.
It's not like that cover hasn't been, reflected
homaged 1,000 times.
Yeah, a lot of times. It's like the Vision Avenger 65 cover. It's been done 100 times, but sure, let's do it again.
Right. Yeah, let's do it again. Yeah, we were talking about the X-Men just a minute ago. X-Men Gold is really good, and this Phoenix book is fantastic. But this X-Men Blue has not been good in the last 4 or 5 issues, and that's probably why it's getting canceled.
They're both getting canceled, and X-Men Blue is going to get better before it gets canceled. It won't get better in the next 12 issues.
I don't know if it can get any worse.
Boy, you are grumpy tonight. Holy cow.
No, I just really didn't enjoy this X-Men book.
Okay. Phoenix Resurrection number 1. Can we agree we both enjoyed it?
Yes, it was very good.
Yeah, this begins.
I'm not really sure what's happening in it, but at least it was decent.
This begins with some kids playing. I don't know what city it is. It's near Jean Grey's old home, Hudson, New York. Okay.
Yeah, I'll say it's upper New York, isn't it?
Yeah, which is where Jean Grey's family lived. And a young girl who looks surprisingly like a 10-year-old redhead, Jean Grey, appears, and the kids don't die, but they become comatose and start floating 3 feet off the ground, or a couple of feet off the ground. And at that point, they realize something's going wrong. So Kitty Pryde assembles all the X-Men teams and says, look, we got to figure out what this is. They determine she's beating around the bush. And finally they say, well, the Phoenix Force is coming. And we know, we know this. We've got it narrowed down to 3 areas, which are Manhattan, the south of France, and the North Pole. And she dispatches 3 teams to go look at each one of them. All of that's kind of, the teams go out, they fight different things. What they're really fighting are basically illusions.
Yeah. Those locations are pertinent to the original Phoenix storyline.
Yes, they are. Where this book really gets interesting is on page 25, where we find a nice little diner. It's Annie's Diner, and again, a redhead named Jean works there, and everyone sees the Phoenix Force exploding in the sky like the sun at the same time. And they happen to see it at this little diner. And they go inside, and there's a very nice lady there. She isn't Maria McTaggart, but she looks a lot like her. And Sean Cassidy is sitting there eating. Is it Sean Cassidy?
Yeah, it is.
You sure we don't have him confused with David Cassidy's brother?
That's
Sean Cassidy.
Yeah, well, it's one of them's the Black something.
Anywho, Black Tom.
Black Tom, yeah. That's Tom Cassidy.
David Cassidy is a singer. from the 70s and the Partridge Family, who died recently. Sean Cassidy is his brother, who was also a popular singer.
Oh.
Anywho, so she's sitting there talking to Mr. Cassidy. She wanders home. She's not really feeling well, and she wants to go to bed. Except her parents remind her that she has a friend coming over for supper, and that friend happens to be one Scott Summers bearing flowers.
Yep.
And again, this is really confusing because we just discussed X-Men Blue with Scott Summers and Jean Grey running around in it, but this is the original 1963 Jean Grey and Scott Summers.
Yeah, the original Phoenix. Yeah, it's them.
It's the Sean Cassidy that's dead, the Jean Grey that's dead. I don't know if that's Maria McTaggart or not. The Scott Summers is dead. All these characters are dead, and they're appearing here. And this is a great book, man. This is really good.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. Hey, so as we saw in the previous issue or the last issue of Jean Grey, which led into this book,
yes,
younger Jean Grey was obliterated by the Phoenix, but she's running around in X-Men Blue.
Dude, I don't discuss these continuity problems many times, man.
Yeah, I don't. This is a glaring one. Unless she's just going to come back around at some point and we don't know about it.
All you got to do is put a blurb in X-Men Blue, an editorial note saying, "Hey, these events take place before Phoenix Resurrection."
Yeah, which is my assumption, is that they just take place before that, but there's no way to know.
Again, this we talked about editors last week, and editors doing a poor job, and this is an example of editors again doing a poor job. It just just a note. This takes place before here. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are only X-Men books. Moving to Spider-Man, we have Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows number 14. The Spider family fights the lizard in the park, or not at the park, but it's Coney Island. And at the end, they subdue him, and as it usually turns out, the lizard needs their help doing something.
It's a day in the life of Mary Jane Parker.
Yeah, kind of. There's a whole nother thing where they, she's training with Tony Stark at the Avengers Mansion, and
that's the kid.
No, that's her.
Oh, that's right. It is, isn't it?
It's Mary Jane Watson.
He wants to give her a car.
Yeah. Well, no, he doesn't understand why they only have one car, and he realizes, oh yeah, because normal people live on budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have 11 cars in this house.
Yes.
Yeah. She beats up some kids on the way home and who are bullying this other kid, and then there's a fashion show or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was all right.
Yes. Next we have the Scarlet Spider number 12,
which still hasn't been canceled, and that's a travesty.
Okay, let's talk about that a second. We beat up on these books because they keep reusing Fing Fang Foom and the Chameleon and whoever, because they just keep resurfacing characters. And you and I have both been very critical of this book. Yet as I go through this book, you realize that Peter David's not doing that here. He's taken two interesting characters, Kane and Ben Reilly, and he's interspaced them with a bunch of other characters that at best are D-list, or he created one or the other. They've kidnapped the lady that owns the casino, and they just keep appearing. And the problem is they seem to be dead, or they don't have souls, and they seem to be dead. And it's really interesting. It really is. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the book is great. I'm just saying we need to give Peter David some kind of credit for creativity, for just not using the same villains over and over again.
Okay. I mean, I still don't know who any of these people are. Apparently they're the Slingers, and I don't know who they are. And he's playing with characters nobody cares about.
Well, see, that's the thing. people kind of do, because on the last panel, you have Cyber. Okay. And it's one of the characters who reverts to the form Cyber. The thing is, that's an Image book. That's an Image character. Actually, to be specific, I think it's a Wildstorm character. And it's pretty interesting. I had forgotten this till I saw the last page. I'm trying to pull up his Wikipedia page, and you type in Cyber and you get everything in the world.
I was going to say, you're going to have to type in at least Cyber Image Comics. Okay, that I didn't know. I didn't realize he was a Image character.
I take that back. He's a Marvel character.
Oh, is he? Okay.
He was created by Sam Keith, who went to work for Image, who did I think he did Pit and something else.
So in other words, Sam Keith probably did a character that was very similar to Cyber at Image.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, because I know they folded Wildstorm at one point in time recently. So I wonder, I was just wondering if maybe they sold off all that IP.
So anywho, at the time, there were a lot of stories on this book getting a lot of pop because it had Cyber in
it. Okay.
Next, we have Spider-Man Deadpool number 25. You want to talk about book I don't care about. We've said it before. I will say it again. This is just a money grab. They're still on this island fighting all these crazy people. There's some good one-liners in here. It's good seeing her name's Husk, and she's Sam's sister. I'm trying to remember the character's name. Anyway, it's good seeing her here. It's not bad. It's just not really good. I mean, Chameleon winds up making off with all the Deadpool makes off with the weapons. The Chameleon makes off with what's really important, which is a file on how to steal everyone's identity, I guess.
Yeah, this book wasn't half bad when it first started, but 25 issues in, I feel like it's really tanked.
There's some of these books that suffer from a 2-week publishing schedule. You'll notice 2 different artists drew this book.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that trying to turn these books out every 2 weeks catches up with some of these people, with some of the artists, with some of the
writers.
Right. Yeah, I think it does. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't understand publishing the book twice a month.
Because it's selling like crazy.
Yeah, but it'd be an even better book and could sell even more if you published it once a month and it was halfway decent.
Well, if you publish it twice a month and it sells 75,000 copies each time, or if you publish it once a month and it's good and it sells 90,000 copies, you've lost, at 90,000 copies, you've lost 60,000 copies in sales. So they're trading quantity for they're trading quality for quantity. It's a money grab, man.
No, I get it. It's just when the goal of the publisher becomes chasing sales like that, you've lost the plot. The sales come from writing a good story, and stuff sells because it's good, not because you wanted to stick Spider-Man and Deadpool in a book together and grab people's dollars. We've talked about this ad nauseum. So yeah, just the culture, the business culture that gets into this sometimes that I just don't understand.
I'm with you.
You're just trying to get a bump on your quarterly numbers is all you're doing.
Yes.
Anyway, Spider-Man number 5, which is the final issue of this. Miles and Peter are having a heartfelt conversation in this abandoned old building that they've been investigating when Taskmaster attacks. It's really just a big diversion so the evil Miles can use his dimensional translocator or whatever it is to jump to another universe, because if you've been keeping up with this, he's looking for the love of his life who exists in an alternate universe. He goes there to look for her, and ends up in the 1610 universe, the Ultimate Universe, the one that Miles came from, that we thought was destroyed. It's not. It's still there.
Was this book in continuity?
Yes.
Okay.
He walks into a bar where the girl that he's in love with works, and they have a cute little conversation when all of a sudden we see Spider-Man taking down the Green Goblin in the street, and Captain America's there, and Spider-Girl and Thor and the Gray Hulk and Giant Man and Riri Williams, and he gets a phone call from Spider-Man, who's not Miles Morales but appears to be Peter Parker, gets a phone call from Mary Jane saying, "Hey, Aunt May wants you to come home. Gwen Stacy's here," or something like that. All the old Ultimate characters that you remember from the Ultimate Spider-Man days are all back. And apparently, my understanding, having read articles about this a few months ago when it hit the shelves, is this is in continuity. This was Brian Michael Bendis's big thing before he left Marvel, was he wanted to reestablish the Ultimate Universe. So the Ultimate Universe wasn't destroyed, or even if it was, it got recreated. We really don't have answers to that yet, but yeah, it's there.
I might go back and read this.
Yeah, it's only 5 issues. It's actually pretty good. Here at the end, Miles Morales makes the decision that he is not going to be Spider-Man anymore. He's no longer Spider-Man.
Which is what we see going on in the Spider-Man series, isn't it?
He's been toying with the idea in the Spider-Man series to kind of put the mask down. And he's going to decide to be something else. But right now, all he's going to do is take this girl on a date that he's been wanting to go on a date with. So, yeah, that's Spider-Man 2 number 5, and it leaves a lasting impression.
Good.
Then Amazing Spider-Man 793. After being captured in the last issue, Lee Price, who is the Venom villain leading this Venom gang, has converted Spider-Man over to his side with his symbiote, mind control symbiote things. So he's, doing bad stuff. Meanwhile, Price and his gang have Anti-Venom tied up, and they're going to put him in a blast furnace when Mania shows up and saves him. So that's nice. Black Cat.
Mania's growing on me.
Huh?
Mania's growing on me.
Yeah, I like her. She's all right. Black Cat, and is this Eddie Brock or Flash Thompson? I can't remember. I think it's Flash. No, it's Eddie Brock, because Flash Thompson's the one in the Anti-Venom suit.
Yes.
There's so many Venoms running around in this story, I can't keep them all straight. Eddie Brock and Black Cat go to find that doctor that created the Anti-Venom serum to begin with, and intend to steal it and weaponize it. But that doesn't really work out for him. There's a big fight on a roof. Spider-Man gets freed from the symbiote, and he and Black Cat and Eddie Brock and Flash Thompson and Mania are all going to team up and take down Lee Price. When we find out that Lee Price's actual goal here is to kill all of the crime families in the world at this big gathering they get together at every year, and to take over their whole thing. He's gonna, instead of taking over Black Cat's gang, he's gonna take over every other rival gang that isn't Black Cat's and take her out and become the new Kingpin, so he thinks.
Yes, that's his plan.
Yeah, that's his plan. It's all right. It's fine. I would much rather them get back to the Peter Parker stories that were going on in Amazing Spider-Man before this was all happening.
Art was very good.
The art is good. It looks good.
Yeah. Next up, in the Inhumans universe this week, we have Secret Warriors number 11. This is tell you what, let me recap it, and then I'll come back and talk about it. Okay, or run commentary on it. How about that?
Okay.
We open with all the Inhumans led by ISO attacking the Secret Warriors because last issue Inferno stole a piece of Terrigen crystal from the throne. So they're throwing down Magic comes in. She comes because she's called in by Daisy. She thought she was called in to whack people with a sword and kill them. Instead, she was called to teleport them out. She was like, "Hey, you got to clarify these things. You know, how am I going to know?" They're chasing Sinister around is what they're doing. There's some funny panels on page 7 where Daisy, Lunella, and Illyana are sitting on a roof drinking milkshakes. When Karnak shows up and begins explaining the parts of his plan, the problem is his plan, just to back up a few issues, is to use Sinister to recreate the Terrigen Mist. Not the Terrigen bomb, but the Terrigen Mist themselves, so that they can have new Inhumans. Because as long as they don't have the Terrigen Mist, they don't have Inhumans. And Karnak is basically working with Sinister to have this happen. His plans go awry here, and it doesn't work out for him. Finally, they find Sinister at the Tower of Wisdom. Sinister's got all these creatures he calls Unhumans because he hasn't perfected Terrigen Mist yet, except all the Inhumans show up with all the Secret Warriors, and they kind of throw down. And at some point, Lunella thinks Moon Girl thinks she kills Sinister, but she doesn't because he actually disappears. Karnak is banished, Inferno is banished, and everybody else is kind of, on their own. First off, this was a good issue and a good semi-conclusion to this story. Does this book wrapped up in chapter 12 next?
Possibly.
I'm not sure. I know I don't think it's still ongoing, so I think it does wrap up. Here's my problem. Who did the Karnak book that was so good that only came out like every 6 months a couple years ago?
Warren Ellis.
He created Karnak, and Karnak has always been perceived as this great thinking, plotting, scheming character, which he kind of is up until this issue. Then in this issue, all of his plans go awry, and he gets beaten up by Sinister. Uhura outsmarts him. Sinister outsmarts him. All his plans go wrong. I enjoyed it because it showed a different side of Karnak, and that he's trying to save the Inhumans.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he has a plan to save the Inhumans, which is by recreating Terrigen Mist. The problem is he's literally making human sacrifices to do it, or in this case, Inhuman sacrifices to do it. So no one's real happy with his methods. He's just finding the ends of the means. No one's real happy with it. It was a good book, man. I was pleasantly surprised by it.
All right then.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been okay. I actually haven't read the last 3 issues, but it's all right. It's an interesting team dynamic for sure.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I'm not a fan of this style of art. I don't know what you call this style of art, but I really enjoyed it. Somebody did a very good job with the facial expressions, and I just really enjoyed the book. I did, which this isn't one of the books I look forward to every week.
It was a pleasant surprise.
Will Robson helped with the art. That's why it looks so good.
Ah, okay.
Javier Garin actually did it, and it says with Will Robertson. I don't know what that means, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if you look at that panel on page 7, where they're basically just sitting on the roof drinking milkshakes, they're just changing their eyes and their facial expressions. Their heads aren't moving, their bodies aren't moving. They're just, and it's good art, man. It's good. I enjoyed it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Black Panther 168. People had said that this Claw Stands Supreme storyline had gotten a little long in the tooth when it finally wrapped up. And I think I understand what they meant. Because in this issue, nothing at all happens.
No, it doesn't.
You have this, if you remember a few issues ago, the Dora Milaje kind of went rogue. Well, the T'Challa's mother is begging them to come back and defend their king, because he's fighting against Claw. Black Panther and his team are flying through the desert trying to figure out how to defeat Claw and how Claw got to this point. They crash land in the desert. They have to fight some of these creatures that have been invading Wakanda. And the Dora Milaje finally show up to defend their king or something. Dude, it was 22 pages, 24 pages to accomplish just the very most minor plot detail. So, yeah, it wasn't bad, but I'm not going to call it good. And this, I think, is the first issue of Black Panther I've said was not good.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Then we have Black Panther Long Live the King, which I think is like a short mini series. They had the earthquake in Wakanda, so they go to what are called what do they call them? It doesn't matter. They go to this part of Wakanda where they don't have technology. They live off the grid in order to get answers about this earthquake. They encounter some snooty teenagers who recognize the king. They come across an old temple where they run into an actual Black Panther that Black Panther gets in a fight with. Turns out it's not actually a Black Panther. It's some sort of ancient spirit or something. And some sort of possessed spirit that is behind this earthquake or something. I don't know. The issue was fine up until about the last 5 pages, and then it kind of went off the rails.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, you're going to this place to investigate something. Okay, you find some snooty teenagers there. That makes sense. Okay, you're fighting a panther now that's possessed by a demon or something. And what does this have to do with what we were doing? Yeah. Don't know. And it leaves you with no answers. So, again, another disappointing Black Panther book.
There you go. And our interlude. You ever listen to Van Halen? I was humming Happy Trails. Mm-hmm. And Van Halen, it was like their first 2 albums were really good. And then their second, third, and third, fourth, and fifth albums, Women and Children First, Fair Warning, Diver Down, were all mediocre. And they would have a good song or two, but they were just really mediocre, which is okay because it led them to the studio to get serious and make 1984, which is, one of the best albums ever. But anyway, on Diver Down, they actually do Happy Trails, the cowboy song. Mm-hmm. Just straight harmony, no instruments, no nothing. It sounds like a bunch of drunk guys doing Happy Trails.
Sure.
They do it on it's the last track on Diver Down. And it should be the bottom of their career because it basically was. Next, we have, that's your interlude and your musical knowledge for this week. Next, we have Deadpool 291.
Well, before that, I have no problem with Van Halen. Just understand I live in Alabama where all the rednecks listening to nothing but Leonard Skinner and Van Halen. So, I mean, I used to know a guy who he has a daughter named Halen for a reason. And he also has another daughter named Stella Page. So, he's that kind of guy. So I try to avoid Van Halen because it comes with the redneck stereotype. Nothing against Van Halen, but
the Van Hagar era of Van Halen is much better. It's like the first 2 albums were really good. Then they really sucked. Then there was 1984, which was good. Then you got the Sammy Hagar playing with them, and they didn't do a bad song during the Sammy Hagar era. So, but I'm a big Sammy Hagar mark. So what do I know?
Yeah, you really like Sammy Hagar.
You know how much money that dude's got?
A lot,
man. I mean, I think dude. He sold his tequila company for $100 million.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got.
You ever looked at the price of one of those bottles of tequila?
No,
dude, they're like $80 bottles of tequila, and that's for the low end of the line.
Apparently, they sell very well.
Yeah, he's got high-end tequila in his line of tequila that goes for like $175 a bottle.
So, since we're just completely off the subject here, and we seem to be not enjoying the comic books.
Oh, listen, Iron Man number 595 was good.
He opened the bar. Wrong. He opened the bar in Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah.
Okay, Cabo Wabo.
Yeah, Cabo Wabo, which is where that's the same name of his liquor.
Right. All four of the Van Halen brothers, or excuse me, the two Van Halen brothers, Michael Anthony and Hagar, they were all partners. It was 4 equal shares. Sure. Well, they had problems with the bar, man. I mean, it's in Mexico. They had problems with security. They had problems with everything. And after 2 or 3 years, it wasn't bleeding money, but it wasn't making any money. And the Van Halen brothers, and I think Michael Anthony may have kept his part of the bar, but they sold out Sammy. So when then the bar becomes popular, then he makes the tequila, then he sells it for $100 million. Then the Van Halen brothers are like, Eddie and Alex are like, hold on, wait, where's our cut of this? And they were like, dude, you sold, man. You gave up and left, and it's all mine.
You cashed out. Bye.
You cashed out, and it's all mine. I mean, I think they actually took him to court over it.
I think they did.
Judge was like, man, Judge was like, sorry for your luck, man.
Yeah, sucks to be you, dude.
Yeah. Deadpool number something, 291.
Yeah. Wasn't terrible.
It wasn't terrible. It's Deadpool has delivered Cable's heart to Strife. God only knows why he's taking a whiz on his floor. I don't even want to know. And Strife eventually figures out that it's his heart, but then Cable shows up to attack Strife. And there's a funny page where they're all yelling each other's names.
Deadpool yells his own name.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. They fight and they think they've won, except the problem is, and it's always confusing whenever you're doing something with Cable or Strife because they're continually jumping around in time.
Yeah.
So they think they've got Strife pinned down, except he goes back to where is Cable's daughter Maddie, I think, in the hospital. Hope. Oh, Maddie not Cable, Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool's daughter is Maddie. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, she's in the hospital, and Strife's about to kill her if he doesn't kill Cable. So they start fighting. Cable gets all angry with him. That's good. What really put this book over the top is the last few pages, which then you find out that he's got Preston stored up in a crate with Journey playing, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's playing the Journey or the Journey's playing the background, but he's got her stored in the crate, which I guess he can reboot her. I'm not sure.
He's going to try to rebuild her, I think.
Yeah. And then his old buddy Hydra Bob, I love Hydra Bob, calls Deadpool, thanks him for keeping him out of the mess during the whole Secret Empire thing, and tells him where to find evil Steve Rogers.
Steve-ul.
Which should be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to go after the evil Steve Rogers who deceived him that whole time.
Yep.
So it'll finally start getting, it'll really pick up, and then, I don't know. I think that'll be a good storyline.
Then it'll get canceled and rebooted.
Oh, well, okay.
I don't know. It's going to get kind of rebooted. I mean, Jerry Dugan's leaving the book, and they're doing away with the whole despicable Deadpool and just kind of making him Deadpool again.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing away with the whole world hating him.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Deadpool's got to go back to his roots too, I guess.
Yeah.
Iron Man 595 begins with Victor Von Doom monologuing his entire life purpose after his come to Jesus meeting to his ex-lover, Dr. Amara. She points a gun at him and says, "Please leave me alone. I keep telling you this to leave me alone. Why do you keep showing up in my life? Go away." Something about prenatal vitamins. And then we have Riri Williams flying over Chicago, talking to AI Tony. She lands in her front yard and goes into her workshop and garage when she finds a bunch of hired thugs from the Stark Corporation going through all of her things and taking all of her stuff because they feel that it's their stuff and it's this whole hostile takeover thing. They have to make some threats, and it gets ugly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Tony, physical Tony, who's apparently created a new body for himself and crawled into a suit of Iron Man armor to sleep off the hangover that comes from cloning oneself and transferring one's consciousness into a new body. When his mother finds him and then picks him up bodily, armor and all, and deposits him into a bed. Now, she's not She-Hulk. She's just your average middle-aged woman. So how she picks up Tony Stark wearing Iron Man armor is baffling to me.
I thought that was a dream.
We were getting there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was building up to something. But okay.
Well, you were, and I'm sorry. I thought you were asking a sincere question, which is how did she lift him? And I'm thinking, I thought that was a dream. What are we doing?
Yeah. So he's having this conversation with his mom while he's laying in this bed. And then Mary Jane Watson shows up wearing a really short dress, which should have been your first inclination. Then Steve Rogers is there, Captain America, Spider-Man, all the heroes are there. And you're like, oh, you came. And then Rhodey's there. And it turns out none of this is happening at all. It's just him hallucinating and dreaming while he's laying in this Iron Man armor in the middle of a warehouse somewhere.
I'm sorry. I missed you.
It's okay.
I mean, you were asking how she lifted it, and I'm like, I don't know. I actually left the Jessica Jones book and flipped through this one because I thought maybe I was remembering it wrong. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Meanwhile, in the south of France, Victor Von Doom is brooding over his kitchen table when the Hood shows up with the living laser and some other guy who has red eyes. And apparently the Hood's going to try to take out Victor Von Doom here. I don't know. But it's at this moment that Mary Jane, his mom, Friday are all trying to find Tony. And she realizes the only way that she'll ever be able to find Tony is to get in his head and talk to Tony to know where he is. Well, there just so happens to be an AI version of Tony that would probably know. So in the next issue, we'll find out about that.
Yeah, the Friday asked him, do you know where Tony is? And the AI version says, well, to be fair, no one's ever asked me yet.
Yeah, you didn't ask.
Yeah, which was a good point. Speaking of monologues that went on for a while, I was reading his Jessica Jones book, which is very good. And you get 8 or 9 pages of monologue by Kilgrave, the Purple Man. And at some point, I was just like, is this ever going to end? I mean, Jessica's not talking. It's literally, in 10 pages, she probably says 10 words. And then you realize what's happening is she's been stalling for time so that Kraven the Hunter, I wanted to say Killraven. That's a DC character. Kraven the Hunter can put a round through him and kill him. And then Carol Danvers is there. Nick Fury's there looking through binoculars with his one eye. And then Jessica just starts baiting on him because she just does. But the problem is, since his power boost, with the whole kid thing back in Daredevil, apparently he can't die. So while she's beating him, he can't take control of Jessica, but he calls in dozens, maybe hundreds of people to start beating up Jessica. They manage to save him. He escapes. Then he starts talking to Jessica through different people. And finally, he shows up in the form of a possessed Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, which should be really good.
That sounds interesting.
Because when the round went through him, I thought, well, we killed him and it's done. And then he didn't. Then he said he couldn't die, and then he took over Carol Danvers, and this should be entertaining.
All right, then. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 26. Galactus showed up because he has a message for Lunella. Apparently, another Galactus-like entity who doesn't just eat planets but entire universes is coming, and she's there to warn him, or he's there to warn her. B story, the Thing goes on an adventure with a Puerto Rican kid.
Ah,
That's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 26.
oh, there you go. Um, so this Moon Knight book, when your boy Max Bemis was taking over, I still had CM Punk problems. Okay, I was afraid it was going to be, and no offense, but you were a big fan of the X-Men book he did. I wasn't. What was it, the worst X-Men ever?
The worst X-Men ever. Yeah,
I was not a fan.
Yeah, there was a level of absurdity to it that I didn't think you enjoyed.
No, I really didn't. However, his work on Moon Knight here is just off the chain, man. It is really good. It opens with, I think it's Ra, the Sun God, getting whatever the dude's name is, whose face that Mark Spector cut off at one point. Then you cut to all the Moon Knight characters in a gym. It turns out they're just all in Mark's head while he's sitting meditating in a park, which is really pretty entertaining.
He starts yelling at himself and freaks some lady out.
Yeah, it's
dog.
Yeah, it's dude, it's great, man. It really is.
Good. It's a really good. He's doing really well with Moon Knight.
Then we cut to I can't remember his girlfriend's name. It's Miss Arlene, but it's something. And anywho, the Ra goes to see her and brings on a henchman with her, and finally she contacts Mark Spector or whichever of the people was in control at that time. You believe it's Mark Spector because of the way he lovingly talks to her. And what you find out is she dumped Mark Spector, but she's still been seeing Jake Lockie the whole time. And Jake Lockie has been keeping this from her or from Mark Spector because he didn't want any of the other parts of his head to know about it. And not only that, but turns out they've had a little kid together.
Yep, they've got a daughter. You know what's really disturbing about this last bit?
Yeah.
He modeled the girl after his own daughter.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I just closed the book.
Pictures of Max Bemis's daughter, that's her.
Well, that's kind of creepy.
It is really disturbing, given the context of what's happening in this scene. Yeah.
That's kind of creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little deranged.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah. Oh, Thanos number 14. Yes, Thanos number 14. You got to give me a second because this book was so good. I read it like 8 days ago and didn't glance at it today. What happens is you kind of get an origin of Thanos, and you got old Thanos there who's in his throne, and the Ghost Rider came and got young Thanos and brought him here basically to the end of the universe because Thanos has killed everything. And it's you kind of get a recap and origin, and then young Thanos just thumps old Thanos and says, "Hey, I'm not in the mood for being manipulated. I'm not in the mood for any of this." And finally, old Thanos is like, you're what I need. You're pretty good at this. You still got your youth and your vigor. And there's only one reason I would call you here, one person I would call you here. And of course, it's Lady Death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really good book, man. Really. If you're not reading Thanos, I highly recommend it. Forget about the Infinity stuff that's coming. Just this Thanos book by itself is good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What's not cool is this Mighty Captain Marvel book. Carol Danvers is still stuck in this dark universe where everything's topsy-turvy. So her and Evil Black Widow and the Sasquatch, who is really smart, and the Puck, who's afraid of everything, are teaming up to fight evil Peter Quill and his group of Ravengers, because he's the leader of the Ravengers in this universe. But his group of Ravengers they're the Guardians of the Galaxy. And instead of Drax having his family killed, well, Drax is the one that killed his family. And instead of Groot being a giant tree, he's Root, and he's a giant carrot.
I am Root.
I am Root.
Sprouts pop out of his head. That was
yeah. And at the end, we find out that in this universe, Thanos is a good guy.
Well, he's got to be a good guy somewhere.
Yeah, this book can end anytime. I'm just done.
Okay, then.
Moving on to Star Wars, where it got moderately better. It's the last issue of this Mace Windu book. We have the big fight between him and this assassin robot that he's been dealing with this whole time. But that's not really the meat of the issue. The meat of the issue is when they get back to Coruscant, you have the trial of this Jedi that attacked Mace Windu, and he essentially accuses all of the Jedi Council of being deceived and being corrupt and using their position of power to further their own will and reshape the message of the Jedi to mean something else. And they expect him, he expects them to kill him, to execute him, but they actually don't. The whole thing is they want to re-educate him. And yeah. Then Mace Windu goes on a little monologue here at the end about the things they're going to face in the future. And next we start the Thrawn series, so that'll be good.
That will be good. Okay,
I read the first issue. It's good.
Before you begin this, is that pronounced crate?
Crate, yes.
Star Wars crate. First off, I really thought this was a joke. It's written by Ben Acker and Ben Blacker.
Yep.
Okay, I thought that was some kind of joke.
Nope. Okay.
Secondly, I feel like crate was something I should know in my Star Wars mythology, but I don't.
Well, if you saw The Last Jedi, you've been there.
Which one was crate?
Crate was the planet that Luke and Kylo Ren fight on with the red dust.
Oh, that was crate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason they go back there in The Last Jedi.
So when does this take place?
Between New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
During the original rebellion.
During the original rebellion.
Yeah. When they're
all right, I'm totally confused, but I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the reason they go back there in Last Jedi is that it was an old base, or where they had a previous adventure years ago, so they used it as so it was somewhere they could go in The Last Jedi where they knew they could be safe.
You know, I have trouble keeping your name straight, Amanda's name straight, Renee's name straight. There's theories floating around. I've been hitting the head too many times. So for me to remember the name of every planet in the Star Wars universe, dude, I forgot my anniversary last week. Okay. So the planets in the Star Wars universe ain't going to happen.
That's okay.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm done with my questions, though.
Well, you're the one reviewing it.
No, I thought you were. Oh, I am.
Your name's next to it.
Dude, my name's next to it, and I didn't read it.
Oh, well. They go to this planet because they're looking for a new permanent base for the rebellion, because Yavin 4 was compromised. And Leia contacts one of her father's old contacts and meets him there, thinking that they can use the old mines there as a base because it's a desolate planet. Turns out he's turned her over to the Empire, and they show up and it's all bad. But there's a big dust storm that helps them take out the Scar Squadron, and they escape.
Art in this book is fantastic.
It looked really good. It looked fantastic.
And I apologize. Dude, I've been in the beach for a week, man. You're lucky I read anything. Plus,
no, it's fine. I understand.
An hour before we leave, they tell me the Wi-Fi password. I'm like, I've been here 5 days. Why did nobody bother telling me the Wi-Fi password? I didn't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, the art, you can tell whoever the artist is. Let me see here. Mike Mayhew. You can tell he used a lot of references from the movie.
Absolutely.
A lot of these face shots look like stills from the movie, the various movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the red dust and the diamonds that you see in Last Jedi, that's this planet.
Ah, so what was your favorite book of the week?
Phoenix Resurrection.
No doubt. We agreed on it for first time in 6 months.
Yeah.
I bought that kind of book is the reason I buy books from the store.
Yeah. Yeah, if for no other reason than there wasn't, I might have said Spider-Man 2 number 5 just because of the implications that it has, but really I didn't feel like anything else was as good as that book this week.
Moon Knight and Thanos were both very good.
Yeah, they were, but I don't know if they were favorite.
Dude, they weren't anywhere near the level of that Phoenix book.
No, not at all. We'll both agree that Phoenix Resurrection was the best one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the dump this week, we have some War Machines books. We have some more of these Silver Surfer books. You can now read. Now that for the second week in a row, they've put out Silver Surfer books, and there's like 30 issues there that tie into the Infinity Gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
It literally starts in issue 35 and runs through 61 or 62. I mean, all the buildup is in these Silver Surfer books, which are finally, now that the movie's been out for 2 months, which are finally on Unlimited. A Night Mask book, which I don't even care about. The Black Goliath book, which was only 5 issues. Chris Claremont did it. I want to say Cockrum drew it, but I may be wrong. Really, if you look at the shipping dates on it, it was one of those books that was shipping every other month. One of them shipped 3 months late. Dude, it was just, I wanted to read the book. I mean, I remember as a 10-year-old kid wanting to read the book, and it was just coming out so sporadically, I couldn't find it. So, anywho, those are in the dump this week.
Cool. Black Goliath gets a little shout out in the Ant-Man movie that came out this past week.
Have you seen it?
I have not, but there's a, what's his name plays him? The guy that also played Morpheus in The Matrix. Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne, you know, he was like involved in Hank Pym's experiments back in the day, and
Foster something. Ben Foster? No. Bill Foster.
Bill Foster, yeah. Yeah, he makes the tiniest appearance in the movie, apparently.
I finished watching Luke Cage this week, or actually today. Really good, man. Really good.
Yeah, you said we talked on while you're on the way home from work, and it was really good.
Yeah, they did a really good job of pacing the whole 13 episodes, keeping action going throughout the whole episode 13, keeping you interested. It's very entertaining.
That's good.
Yep.
Cool. Well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com, where I will have the story, the X-Men story we alluded to at the top, and the Steve Ditko documentary there. It's like 45 minutes. Yeah, it's whatever an hour is edited for commercials. It's very good.
Okay, cool. And you can follow us on Twitter at 6 Months Behind. Pat, before we go, as is customary, do you have any wisdom for us?
Listen to your dreams. They are smarter than you are.
I don't know if I agree with that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.